Hey everybody, I am DJ Riley, one of the hosts from Boys on the Bench, and I am back with my top 5 NBA prize picks, trying to hit that 10 times multiplier on PrizePicks today. If you followed along yesterday, we did make 2 slips. One slip that we made was using the Daily Grind Fantasy software. We did end up hitting 3 out of the 5 of those hitting that 0.4 times multiplier, which is nice to get some money back. Also, later on in the day, I did not get this play posted, but I did use it, and I went 4 and 5, hitting the 2 times multiplier using the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer, getting that 2 times multiplier. I placed that bet closer to tip off, so that's why I wasn't able to get it off, which is the good thing about Daily Grind Fantasy is you can kind of jump on whenever you want, whenever you need. And like I said, we didn't hit the 5 times or the 10 times or the 25 times multiplier, but what we are doing is we are getting at least some money back. And soon enough, we stick with the process, hitting these high positive EV bets, they will pay off for us eventually. Now, if you followed along with my other bets, did not go so great. We had 2 did not participate, and then overall we ended up going 1 and 3 on the day. Hartsign ended up having a career day, essentially 19 rebounds. We can kind of thank Miles Turner for that because he had foul trouble very early on, and they played without a center and mismatched essentially the entire game. So it kind of is what it is on that one. Donovan Mitchell covered within his last minute, hitting 7 assists. Derek White could not shoot the ball. He had plenty of opportunities, but really that Boston team struggled versus the depleted Lakers team, which is very interesting to see. Porzingis, however, was one of the ones that did not go off for us. So that was good. We at least went 1 and 3, right? Whatever is what it is. So for today's video, though, we will be making 2 more slips, one using that Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer tool. And if you wanted to follow along with that, you can check the link in the description. It is down there. Go ahead, click that, go to their Optimizer tool, and you will see all the great stuff that they offer. The next one that we'll be doing is the typical where I do pick my top 5 favorite NBA prop bets for today on PrizePicks. Now, before we jump into this, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button, hitting the notification bell, dropping a like. Notification bell is important. Get notified anytime that these videos are dropping and they're coming out because they are coming out daily. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into our first slip today, which is that Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. Okay, so once we get here to Daily Grind Fantasy, we can immediately see that today's value is not the same as yesterday's value, where we only have one play in that 55%, really giving us that green indicator. Everything else, we're dropping down in the low 54s and then into those 53s, right? But what's good about Daily Grind Fantasy is it isn't only PrizePicks here. You can check across all of these major daily fantasy sports books that they provide here, recently adding Chalkboard and Sleeper, right? So let's look, and Underdog Fantasy, they have a little bit of value for these picks today. Parlay Play has got a couple more better picks, not so much on better. Boom, Chalkboard, Dabble. Okay, so Dabble, I personally do not have a Dabble account, so this is what I will do. I will not be making these bets for you today, but if you do have a Dabble account, we will track these, and I will screenshot this, and let's see if these 5, let's go for 5 picks here. So we'll look at the top 5, and let's see. So Rudy Gobert going under 1 assist. All these other books are offering his line at 1.5 currently, but you can tell that they are heavily favoring that 1.5, 270, 244, 250. So Dabble is giving us a 58.4% chance of hitting, going under 1 assist for Rudy Gobert. Next, Wendell Carter going over 1 turnover. Again, that's another thing where we see 4 books betting on it, all at 0.5, but they're all roughly minus 250 odds, heavily favoring it. And we are getting that on Dabble, which is crazy. It's 56.3% chance of hitting. Okay. And then Nikola Jokic going over 1 block here. Another same thing, 240 plus on every single one of those. Bam Adebayo going under 1 block here as well. Jaren Jackson. So what are these? We'll do the top 5, like I said. 3 out of the top 5, though, are blocks here. So again, let me go ahead. I will screenshot this play, and I will follow along with it, going Rudy Gobert, Wendell Carter, Nikola, Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson. Essentially, all center play here, except Jaren Jackson kind of filling that power forward position, could play center. But let's go with those top 5 picks here. Anywhere from Rudy to Jaren Jackson, throw those in there and we'll see what we can get. So we will follow along with this. Like I said, though, I do not have a dabble, but if you do, this is one of the best bets that you can make at this moment using daily grind fantasy. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into today's picks. First on this list is Paolo Banchero going over 21.5 points versus this Minnesota Timberwolves team. He does have a one-game history versus them this season on January 9th, where we saw him have 18 points on 35 minutes. Now, if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us in terms of positive EV, they are giving us a 50.3% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 118. So again, that kind of that 50-50 split right there. The books are all kind of having him at that 21.5 point value here. But now if we look at his recent performances and how he's done in his last 5 and last 10, he has hit this in 4 out of his last 5 and 5 out of his last 10. Now, where I really like Paolo Banchero here is that he is a road over king. He has gone over in 13 out of his last 15 road games. The 2 that he missed, he still scored 20 points. So again, very close to hitting that line in every single road game that he's played in this season. Now, since Franz Wagner, his teammate, has returned from his injury, we've seen that his usage has remained the same, where he's now had at least 18 field goal attempts in 4 straight games. Now, if we look at how he's done in games where he shot at least 15 field goal attempts, he has hit this over in 25 out of 33 games this year. Now, Minnesota versus the power forward position on points, they do allow the 7th least, which again, I think is why that they have bumped his line down to 21.5. I feel like that's a fair line for him. So yes, he does have a tough matchup, but this is a low point line. So expect a lot of field goal attempts from him, just like we've seen in recent history, and he's on the road. So love this matchup here for Paolo Banchero. Now, next on this list, we got Santi Aldama going under 15.5 points. Looking at him, he has a one-game history versus this Golden State Warriors team on January 15th, where we saw him have 11 points on 17 minutes of play. Now, if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, they're saying that this is a 52.2% chance of hitting with an average line of minus 128. Looking at recent performances and how he's done, he's hit 2 out of his last 5 and also 2 out of his last 10. Really, Aldama has struggled as a shooter these past several weeks, only averaging 37% from the field. However, even if we look at games at how he's done shooting at least 45% from field, he's only hit 1 out of his last 15 games. The game that he hit was a hook where he scored 16 points. So yes, while the Warriors have had their defensive struggles here throughout the season, currently allowing the 9th highest total points in all of the NBA, they have done an excellent job at shutting down the power forward position, which Santi Aldama plays. Golden State Warriors versus power forwards allow the 8th least amount of points to that position. So again, really like him. Has a tough matchup here versus Golden State, but he's also not been shooting the ball here well recently. Again, 37% over these past several weeks. So let's move on to the next pick, and that is Malcolm Brogdon going over 19.5 points plus rebounds versus this Denver Nuggets team. He does not have a head-to-head matchup versus them this season. So if you look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, he has a 50.9% chance of hitting, with books giving an average juice of minus 123. Now, if we look at recent performances, he has hit this in 5 straight and then 8 out of his last 10. The 2 games that he missed over that span, he either played 25 minutes or less. However, over the past 5 games, we've seen him have a bump in his minutes where he now averages at least 37 minutes a game. However, in games that we've looked at where he has done in at least 32 minutes of play, he has hit this line in 15 of 16 games this season. Also, he has hit every single one of those being on the road. We also see that his fellow teammate Shaedon Sharpe is going to be out for this game, and Brogdon in games without Sharpe, he has hit this line in 12 out of 14 games without him. Denver versus the shooting guard position, he does have a tough matchup. Points plus rebounds, they allow the 9th least. But again, we can tell, I feel like this line is appropriately measured at 19.5. It isn't too high for him. It's something that he can very attainably do, especially with Shaedon Sharpe out, and also how many minutes he has been getting over this past week and a half. So love him in this matchup, but let's move on to the next pick, and that is Jaden Ivey going over 15.5 points plus rebounds versus this LA Clippers team. They don't have a head-to-head matchup this season, and we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us. It's a 51.1% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 123. Now, recent performances, he's hit this line in 2 out of his last 5 and 7 out of his last 10. Now, an important thing to kind of monitor here is Cade Cunningham. He's still listed as day-to-day with his injury, where we see him play one, miss one, play one, miss one, essentially is what it looks like they're doing. However, we don't know what his status is at this point coming into this game. So if we look at how Jaden Ivey has done with Cade Cunningham, Ivey averages 27 minutes of play where he's hit the over in 6 out of his last 10 with Cade. Now, without Cade, Ivey now averages 32 minutes of play, which is a 5-minute increase, and has hit the over in 8 out of 9 possible games this year. So definitely does a lot better without Cade Cunningham, but it is important to know that if he does play with Cade, how does that look? So worst case scenario is that if he plays with Cade Cunningham today, which forces Ivey to play his average of 27 minutes, this season when Ivey averages 27 minutes of play, he has hit the over in 20 out of 25 games this season. Also, what's interesting is that the Clippers versus the shooting guard position allow the 10th most points plus rebounds. So again, whether Cade Cunningham is in there or not, I really like Jaden Ivey in this matchup to go over 15.5 points plus rebounds. But let's move on to the final pick for today, and that is DeAndre Ayton going over 14.5 points. Again, another matchup versus this Denver Nuggets team. They do not have a head-to-head matchup this season, and if we look at what Daily Grind Fantasy is giving us, they say that this is a 51.4% chance of hitting with an average juice of minus 123. Looking at recent performances, Ayton has been on an absolute tear these last 5 games, going 5 of his last 5 and 6 out of his last 10. So now, while Denver has been very good versus the center position, allowing the 9th least amount of points to that position, they have been struggling recently, where we've seen 6 out of the last 7 centers that they faced score at least 15 points. So Ayton has seen an increase in his usage and his minutes these past several weeks, where we saw that he was bumped up from 31 minutes per game to now 36 minutes per game over his last 5. So even if we look somewhere in the middle of that 31 and 36, let's say 33 points, then he's hit the over in 12 out of 15 games where he saw at least 33 minutes of play. So again, really like that versus this Denver Nuggets team who has struggled versus the center. Right now, the Joker is listed as questionable for this game, so especially if he's out, I love this line and expect it to be heavily bumped up. But even if Jokic is in there, I still like this matchup for them, especially with 6 out of their last 7 centers that they faced scoring 15 plus. Anyways, guys, these are my top 5 picks, and I hope everyone the best. Hopefully we can rebound, and maybe 2 days ago we can have that full 5-0 sweep like we did. So anyways, make sure y'all are subscribing to this channel, hitting that notification bell, getting notified anytime these videos are dropping. Also drop a comment and a like, because all of that helps this channel grow. Thank y'all so much, and best of luck today. I will see y'all next time.